Once you have processed the text, written your lesson plan, and prepared the learning environment, you're ready to begin instruction. The Comprehension Lesson Framework outlines 3 parts for each lesson: before, during, and after reading. A copy of the lesson plan used in our videos is attached below. We recommend printing it out to refer to as you watch the lesson in action. Let's begin with what you do in the lesson before you read the text. Before you read, introduce the text, establish your purpose, and activate or build critical knowledge your students will need to understand the material. Building knowledge also involves identifying the text structure and, when needed, supporting students with a graphic organizer to visualize the information. Let's watch an example from Ms. Gaddis' 2nd grade classroom. In this example, she is reading aloud a nonfiction text about the life cycle of a butterfly. Watch how she establishes her purpose, highlights the text structure, and builds background knowledge on one of the focus words needed to understand the text: metamorphosis. First, let's watch Ms. Gaddis introduce the text and text structure.
We're going to read a book. The title is Butterflies and Moths, and the author is Nick Bishop. This is a nonfiction story, and it's going to tell us all about how an egg turns into a butterfly. The author, Nick Bishop, is going to use some photographs and words to explain that life cycle to us. Can you say life cycle?
Life cycle.
All right, here are the words: life cycle. That's what we're going to learn about today. This author tells the information in this book in a sequence, so it's going to follow the steps of the life cycle in order.
Did you notice how Ms. Gaddis intentionally built knowledge of the text structure? She explained the structure was a sequence or cycle and provided a visual of the life cycle to bring the text structure to life. Pairing a graphic organizer with an explicit description is a great way to aid students' comprehension, whether it be during a read aloud or an independent reading of text. The author's text structure provides a roadmap for students to navigate the information they'll be learning. Once Ms. Gaddis has introduced the text, she activates her students' prior knowledge of the topic. Watch as she encourages her students to share their insights and affirms what they already know about caterpillars and butterflies.
If you've ever seen a caterpillar before, if you have, give me a thumbs up. Have you ever seen a caterpillar? Okay, point to your brain. I want you to think about how that caterpillar looked. In your brain, think of some descriptive or describing words about a caterpillar. Okay, turn to your partner and describe what it looked like and how it moved. All right, come back to me. All right, if you would like to tell me how that caterpillar looked, please raise your hand. I would love to hear you say, the caterpillar looked. Maybe give me a full sentence. Go.
The caterpillar looked fuzzy.
Fuzzy, I love that descriptive word.
The caterpillar looked like it was fat and green.
Ooh, very nice. I love those descriptive words. I wonder, did anyone talk about movement? Maybe something that helps the caterpillar move? Would you share with me?
It like slides around on its little legs, but it's like sliding around like a worm.
Great description there. Does anyone want to add on to how it was moving?
It kind of moves it looks like the legs aren't even there.
You saw this!
The legs aren't there.
I heard one friend say sliding, and you said it looks like you couldn't even see the legs. Yeah, I love that. Okay, now point to your brain and tell me, or think, have you ever seen a butterfly? We've talked about caterpillars. If you've seen a butterfly, give me a thumbs up. I want you to describe how the butterfly looked and moved to your partner. Go.
Now that Ms. Gaddis has activated her students' prior knowledge, she builds background knowledge around an important focus word that is used in her lesson: metamorphosis. She knows her students must have a firm understanding of this vocabulary word to access the material and meet their purpose for reading. So she uses a vocabulary routine to explicitly introduce the word. Let's watch.
Did you know there are some creatures who completely change their shape or form? You've heard of that before? If you have, give me a thumbs up. That process is called metamorphosis. I'm going to say it one more time and then I want you to say it. Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis.
The word metamorphosis is the process that explains how a creature or a living thing changes shape or form as it grows. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about some creatures and decide, do they go through metamorphosis or do they not? So what do you think about a butterfly? Does it completely change its shape or form as it grows?
Yes.
Absolutely. If we know metamorphosis, this is our word bank. If we know metamorphosis is a process of a living creature completely changing its shape or form, everybody say that, completely change shape or form. Say that, completely. Then would this dog vote again? Would it have gone through metamorphosis, up or down? Very nice. It would not. It does get bigger, but it doesn't change to a completely different creature or form. Very nice. Thank you very much. So we are going to read about how a butterfly goes through metamorphosis. That's our life cycle. One of the cool things about nonfiction books is you don't have to read every page. So I'm going to show you what I did. I actually taped some of the pages together. You'll see here's the title page. And then I'm going to skip all of these pages till I get to page 10 because this book is about butterflies and moths, and I'm just interested in the butterflies.
Did you notice how Ms. Gaddis used examples of animals the students were already familiar with to assess their understanding of the word? Then she intentionally connects the word metamorphosis back to their purpose for reading. Finally, did you notice how Ms. Gaddis explained to her students why she was not reading the entire text? She explained the entire book was about butterflies and moths, but their specific purpose for reading was to learn about the life cycle of a butterfly. Therefore, they wouldn't be reading the entire story in one lesson. Her students now have a clear understanding of their purpose for reading. Let's review in our next step.